Hello, once again, and welcome back to Conquest of Azeroth, and we are taking a look at level 60 Chronomancer. How is the leveling? Fun. Leveling is pretty smooth. You get self heals, you get some good self buffs to buff either your spirit or your intellect. You get three over as you level. End up with three self buffs in your temporal buffs that increase your spell haste, your stamina and mana regen, your spirit and mana regen, which is what I normally use, or your armor and causes enemies that hit you to attack slower. Normally, I run with increased stamina because mana regen is a must on this class across all three specs. You get access to some really good utility in movement abilities to reduce enemy movement or basically just lock them down completely. Your damage is pretty good across all three specs, though one of the specs does have its issues. You have damage buffing spells like Past Mistakes and Hasten, which you can apply. You can apply Hasten to yourself or your allies, while Past Mistakes goes on enemies to increase the damage you deal. The class does have some mana issues. It definitely runs out of mana if you're not careful, but normally you can assuage this with timeout and careful planning of your talent tree. In the class talent tree, after level 30, you get access to things like Unmaker of Realities and Maker of Realities, Mind Over Matter, Head of the Game, Temporal Focus, and all these other lovely abilities to help with your damage or your mana regen. I would definitely suggest getting, if you're either one of these two, this is good for healing or this is good for damage. Either way, grab one of the two depending on what your spec is. Ahead of the Game is a must, no matter if you're damage or healing. Expediting time is great for helping with your mana. Gravity Bomb is, out of all these abilities, pretty much the best one I have found. It's good AoE damage, and it's great for bunching up enemies to use your waves of time on to knock them off cliffs and things. I've done this a few times. It's really funny. Infinite Shield's good if you're going healing, but Mass Babify and Dimensional Divergence, while both good in their own ways, kind of fall off compared to these two. So it is what it is. PvP wise, the class actually is kind of fun in PvP. You are either going to be focusing strictly on taking out high priority targets and healers, or locking down people for your team to blitz through. First spec we're going to look at is Artificer, and Artificer's fun to level. It's fun to level and it's fun to play all the way up to 60. At level 30, I said that it had issues with multiple targets, but through the use of sporadic incantations, splitting time, and threads of eternity, your AoE damage actually definitely kicks up and becomes very, very strong. Up to a point. Normally, I think the max you can hit is 5 targets at total with this. So at fights with more than 6 mobs, with 6 or more mobs, correction. Other classes will out DPS you on AoE, but up to 5 mobs, you deal insane damage. You will normally top the DPS chart if you're smart. Arc Collision's an AoE ability that consumes your Echo Fragments to increase its duration. It affects 3 targets at a time, and it does tick damage. The problem with this is how it's explained. It makes it sound like it pulses the AoE damage all around these targets. It doesn't. It just pulses these 3 specific targets with AoE damage, and the damage is not enough to make this really usable. Unfortunately, taking it is kind of necessary to get Threads of Eternity, which makes your Discordance apply the Threads of Eternity debuff for 6 seconds, which is consumed by Wand of Time to create an effect to, flat just increase the damage from Wand of Time, but also Wand of Time will consume that effect depending on your continuum spell, to having a unique effect, as you see there. Your 2 passives cause your Wand of Time to increase the durations of your continuum spells, and just flat increases your critical strike damage, which you definitely want to build critical strike. The downside is I don't know if you want spell strike or attack strike or normal or flat strike, because that's kind of the problem. I'm still experimenting with that. I want to say for your wand attacks, you want flat crit strike or agility to help with those crits. I may very, very much be wrong, so do not take what I say as gospel. The spec overall is good. You, as Artificer, you deal great single target damage. When all of your stuff is off cooldown, when you've got your freaking past mistakes and hasting up, and you're getting into that rotation, you deal truckloads of damage, and you will normally either be second or first or second in the DPS chart in single target encounters. In multiple target encounters up to 5 targets, again, you will still be near the top of the pack for DPS. The downside is after you get past 5 targets, your DPS really starts falling off, and you'll be out DPS'd by classes that can have unrestricted AoE. Gravity Bomb and Arc Collision do help with this, but Arc Gravity Bomb is better compared to Arc Collision. Arc Collision just needs to be reworked. Your mana, given your talents of archaeology and reverse engineering, both help you with mana. Reverse engineering causes your periodic damage to have a chance to increase your haste, and grants you replenishment to increase a chunk of your mana per 5 seconds, 5% of your mana per 5 seconds for 15 seconds. And this really helps keep your mana up. You will still occasionally have to use timeout, but very rarely compared to the other specs. You'll want to stick with Temporal Restoration and Chrome's Wisdom. Don't know why I'm yawning so much. And Chrome's Wisdom for extra spirit and mana regen to help even more. For rotation, spam Artificer's Wand. Spam Artificer's Wand, get 5 Echo Fragments, Singularity Core for single target, Flux Emitter for AoE, use Discordance and Wand of Time off cooldown if you have 5 stacks of Echo Fragments and nothing to use them on. Either use Shatter Echo or Decomposition. Apply Decomp first. If you've got Decomp on a target, use Shatter Echo, and then just keep throwing out wand hits. You're basically a machine gun of wand bolts, and it's really fun to listen to. Next, we are going to take a look at Infinity. Infinity is nice, but it has issues, and the chief among them is you run the hell out of mana stupidly quickly. And I mean stupidly. You will go from full mana to almost no mana in the blink of an eye rapidly. And there's not much you can do to change that. But your single target and your AoE damage are pretty good. It's just that mana issue really kind of reads its head a lot. When you're not worrying about mana, your AoE damage in massed groups, you don't have a limit on the number of enemies you can hit. So bigger pulls, you can hit for really high burst DPS from your AoE. But your single target is a little less than Artificer, but it's still good. Especially once you know how to do the rotation and keep your buffs up pretty consistently. But again, the moment you run out of mana, you're kind of screwed. And on extended fights in heroic and mythic dungeons, you really, really feel this pain. After level 30, you get access to the skill Incarnation of Chaos. Take this; it's a flat 15% damage button for 15 seconds, and you can spam out chromatic shards. Even though the cast time's kind of atrocious, but you can still deal out a good chunk of DPS very quickly. Destabilized time is good for pacing on casters, both in PvE and PvP. really good for making them deal less damage. Those are the only two abilities you get. Your 40 and 50 passives, your level 40 passive just affects your temporal buffs, basically doubles their effectiveness, which is nice, but still you have crap ton of mana issues. And then level 50, your mind melt, which is up here, now causes enemies to take more damage from your guts per stack that's applied. Between Aeon Rend and Erosion, I go with Erosion to trigger more Chromatic Shard uses, and then Chaotic Time to increase the utility of Incarnation of Chaos. Aeon Rend is good, but really it just doesn't give you a flat damage, and then following it up with, Infinity Keeper Time Rend just has such a short duration that using Infinity Keeper doesn't feel good. Null Orbs kind of suck. You could go over here and take either Pure Chaos or Chaos Fusion. These are both kind of good, but I guess dealer's choice. Sifting Chaos is also decently good. It causes your Chaos Shards and Anomaly Spikes to deal AoE damage around their target, which is kind of nice. Don't forget to, you want to grab Crown of Power for increased tick rate of Melt Reality for more AoE damage. Infinite Horizon is just a flat damage buff across the board. Gift of the Time Way causes your Time Rend and Unmake to benefit from health whenever you cast Melt Reality. Magic Erosion, just more damage to enemies, so on and so forth. Infinite is good. It is strong, and its single target damage and AoE damage are great. The damage is not the problem. It's mana hungry, and I mean severely mana hungry. There is no way to regen your mana outside of frickin' timeout, and that you feel that. While Artificer has, all these little nicks and bobs and doodads that can give you extra mana for using your abilities, Infinite doesn't have that. So Infinite runs out of mana in boss fights really quickly. And then you have to use your timeout, your DPS takes a hit, and then after that, you run out of mana again, timeout's still on cooldown, so you're literally just sitting there dealing next to no damage because you can't regen your mana. And it is what it is. You can't really do much about it. Maybe with enchants, mana pots, and a couple other things, you could fix this issue. Maybe stacking more spirit will help. I don't know. I'm still getting into getting this character fully geared in Mythic gear, and eventually I will take it through raids, and see how that does. Hopefully at raid tier. Look, I keep yawning. Hopefully it feels better. Now, the last spec we're going to take a look at is going to be the healing spec Infinite. Not Infinite, Time. Time actually really it becomes a lot more fun after level 30 because you actually get some good ways to regen your mana, which come from Timeless, which I will definitely comes before level 30, but I didn't take it till after 30. So definitely grabbing this helps with your mana issues. Cycling Aeons reduces the cooldown of your Aeons by 50% through the Aeons, causes Aeons, when you activate Aeons, to increase your mana regen from your spirit to be doubled for 8 seconds. Pairing this with Fabric Time, really, really good for keeping your mana fairly topped up. And then pairing that with Time Blender, which now causes your Fabric Time to automatically crit heal, and gives it a second charge, makes bouncing between Aeons stupidly strong. And when paired with Eternity Warper, which causes your Ripple to now have unique effects depending on the Aeon you're using, as you can see, it really, really becomes stupidly strong. Normally, I bounce between Resilience and Oblivion because those are my two preferred Aeons for keeping my mana going. And the damage and healing you do is actually pretty nice. Time actually does pretty decent AoE damage grouped enemies, and even against bosses, you still deal decent DPS, surprisingly. And the damage can't crit, which is kind of funny. But with all that, your mana definitely becomes a lot easier to sustain. You'll still have to be careful and pay attention to it, and make sure to use timeout when needed. But with bouncing between aeons with those abilities, it becomes a lot easier to keep your mana at least topped off enough to heal people through fights. Displacement is ability you can grab, which basically is just a yoink. You pull a party member to you. Dispelling root and snare effects. You have Vast Infinite. This is good for PvP or in very big fights with a lot of AoE damage, where everyone's going to be taking damage. Because this causes all damage to share a quarter of all damage dealt across the entire party and or raid, up to a maximum of said party member's health. And when it's at the end of its duration, all affected allies are healed for the total damage that has been shared across all characters. So in an AoE situation, if everyone's taking a bunch of AoE damage, that compounds a lot for a massive burst of healing. Just an instant full health if you time it right. You also have Buy Time, which think Bard's ulti from League. You basically put everyone, allies and enemies, into stasis for 8 seconds. For 6 seconds in an 8-yard radius, making them invulnerable to damage, but they can't move. Casting Unmake on a target will remove this effect. This is not good. It sucks. It's bad. No, do not use this. For the love of God, please don't use this. This is asking to get yelled at for something. Continuum Restoration is really good. It's an AoE debuff. Oh, it's magic effect. It's basically a debuffer, not a debuffer. What's the term I'm looking for? It removes magical buffs from your enemies and allies. So basically, it'll remove debuffs off your allies and buffs off your enemies. So it's really good to use in PvP and in PvE, depending on the situation. Overall, Times Healing is really good with the kind of stabilization of the mana, of your mana situation with the use of your Aeon abilities, talents. It gets really easy to keep at least enough mana to get through a fight, or at the very least, make sure people don't die if you're low on mana. Strategic uses of timeout also help. Making sure you have mana pots would probably also be a very golden idea. This is a PSA for all healers. Do not be afraid to tell your tank, slow the fuck down. I need to get my mana. Because so far I've seen a lot of tanks that do not pay attention to the mana of their healer, and they just zug their way through things. And this can get people killed, and it's done that to me a few times. Because I have to get my mana back, and they all run ahead, and I have to panic, oh shit, I gotta catch up. Oh shit, I gotta catch up. And I get there, and the tank's dead before my epoch goes off. It happens. So tanks, also please, for the love of God, pay attention to your healer's mana, because if your healer has no mana, everyone's gonna goddamn die. All in all, I like Chronomancer. It sits in an A tier class. Infinite is a B tier spec. Artificer is an A tier, and Infinite's at times an A tier. Infinite would be an A tier too, but its mana issues, unfortunately, really hamstring it back a lot. That needs really to be addressed in some way. And if it does get addressed and people can explain to me how to better address it, go right ahead. Again, don't take everything I'm saying as gospel. Do your own research, watch other videos, play the classes yourself, get a feel for them. I am just an idiot playing a video game who knows a little bit about WoW, and he hopes he's not wrong. But with all that said, I hope you have enjoyed, and if you have, please feel free to leave a like or a comment below. Like lets me know you all want to see more of this, and a comment tells me with the algorithm, which I always enjoy responding to my comments. And if you also want to see more of these videos, feel free to subscribe. I am trying to put out all 21 of these videos as fast as I can. Leveling just kind of takes a hot minute, even with the 50% XP aura on top of what little heirlooms I have. I will be playing Season 10. I will probably not be putting up videos of that as of yet. I don't know. I still have to decide that, but I want to dip my feet into Season 10 and have some fun with that. But yeah, no, with all that said, I hope to see you all again in the next one. Bye bye.